So there we have it. As we said before, the Mets have taken the title for, in some regards, far too many years. And to the Mets, as many years as they would like to continue to win it. But after they've taken their medals and celebrating together, I'm delighted to be here with Will Lintern, one of the coaches in British baseball. I had the pleasure of having many conversations with Will on this soil and foreign soils about baseball. But today I think we're going to concentrate more on the U side. Firstly, Will, just give yourself a bit of an introduction and tell our listeners about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Russell. It's a pleasure to be sat with you here, enjoying a great day of British baseball. Yeah, I've been involved in British baseball for as long as I can remember. I've come up through the system. I played in the youth clubs down in Tunbridge. I then played for the Brighton Buccaneers when they were a force to be reckoned with in the early 2000s. And then I spent a number of years with the national team as a player and then as a coach. And then I guess my last big thing was working with the national team as the video analyst at the World Baseball Classic. And then since then, I've been back on British soil, just trying to get as many kids playing baseball, whether that's in schools, through starting a new club, the Greenwich Giants, and then, of course, also running T-Rex T-Ball and trying to use that as a vehicle to inspire as many kids as we can to pick up a bat and start playing baseball.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. So let's kind of like start there with like, how do we, how have you kind of got about trying to increase like youth participation in baseball? Because that's the key thing. Like, I think we've
Absolutely.
seen a quite fantastical growth in adult baseball
Yeah.
in the United Kingdom over the last few years. But it kind of hopefully all we can like do is has to push the growth in youth baseball because without that we're not really going to continue to grow as a sport.
No, for sure. Well, first off, it has to be child-centered. Like, baseball is an amazing sport, but if you don't have the prerequisite skills of being able to catch, hit, and throw accurately, it's kind of boring. And T-ball in itself, if you go to any park in the States and you watch kids play T-ball, there's more time of kids picking daisies and kicking dirt than they are actually having action. So for me, it's right. How do we take the game of baseball and make it very child-centered, action-packed, but layer in the skills that they need to then be competent baseball players as they get older? So we've gone into schools. We've used amazing resources from MLB. They have the program MLB First Pitch that supported Key Stage 2. If anyone doesn't know what Key Stage 2 is, that's kids who are 8 to 11. And then I've used T-Rex T-Ball in reception to year 3, which is like 4 to 7-year-olds. And using that as a blend, so it's much more games based. If you look at the activity, it's like, is that baseball? I'm not sure, but it's a round bat, a round ball that they're hitting forwards, often running around bases and practicing the skills that they need to become competent baseball players. But it's everything else that comes into it. It's about making baseball appropriate for kids on their own developmental journey, not just saying this is the one way and the only way to do it for whatever reason that might be. So yeah, that's been our big focus. And just think about, right, well, how do we just get more kids playing for as long as possible? I've been really inspired by, not even a sister sport, completely foreign sport, but football and the journey of someone like Erling Haaland and where he come from and his club back in Norway. They talk about this idea of we want as many kids for as long as possible so they can get as good as possible. And we've had that same mantra with the Greenwich Giants. And so we're just trying to grow as many kids. We're up to 44 members. We've been a club for 5 months and we have 44 members, one of which is over the age of 11 and 27 are under 8. So that's for me is what it's all about. Get as many young kids as you can playing, get them to fall in love with baseball, both the idea and the concept, and then keep them having fun.
No, and that's fantastic to hear. And obviously, what the next steps as they go through your TRX ball and through that first pitch system is to obviously we want to see them become part of Great British baseball.
Absolutely.
And over the last couple of years, we've had a very strong competition performance from the youth system, the under 12s, the under 15s, the under 18s, the under 23s that right now have just been playing out in China, taking a couple of wins against some tough competitions against the Netherlands and Taiwan, and covering a couple of tough losses that really could have
Sure.
pushed them another way. Like, how much has like British baseball from a youth perspective grown from like in your eyes in the last like few years?
I mean, it's been a game changer for us in many ways. We've had a huge injection of kids. We've got more kids playing in schools. The Youth National Championships yesterday, there were 17 teams from I think 13 different clubs. Some of them, like us, the Greenwich Giants, were able to enter our own team. Others, like Brighton and Chichester and Essex and Cambridge, amalgamated to enter teams. But meant that we have one of the best days I've seen in a long time of youth baseball. You know, it was the under 10 and under 12 age group categories. You had kids as young as 6, no one older than 12, all playing. So that's of huge benefit. And I think um, sometimes we forget that the success of the national team and how that can impact kids. So yes, there's funding. Yes, there's prize money. But my son and his friends talk as much about Harry Ford and Michael Peterson as they do about Shohei Ohtani or West Ham Football Club. You know, those are the conversations happening, and that has happened because of the success of that team, because of the work that Drew and Liam before him and the staff they have now and the players they have now. They perform on the stage, and then I can go into an assembly in South London and say, here's Michael Peterson. He was born in North London. He could throw 100 miles an hour. He's pitching for the Dodgers. Well, now he's with the Marlins, obviously. But you know, that's a story that we can tell that we were not able to tell when I was growing up. And that has, we have kids come down to our sessions just because of that story. And that's pretty powerful.
That's amazing to hear. Obviously, yeah, Harry Ford, Michael Peterson is a particular favourite
Absolutely.
Of mine, and as well as our podcast crew.
And
as
such
well
wonderful young men too, as well. You know, great baseball players, but just amazing people.
Yeah, Michael Peterson was just met him in Arizona back in 2020 when the failed attempt at having a World Baseball Classic that was interrupted by the coronavirus, and then what we go through next. Obviously, what is coming not next year but in the year in year advance, the British baseball team is in the WBC again. Just talk through it's the fact that we now have the potential for an Olympic cycle coming in 2028 as well. But what more dynamics that pushes for the high performance of baseball in the UK?
For sure. So, I mean, yeah, from a high performance standpoint, because the team's doing well, I think it unlocks opportunities we've never had before through UK sport. For sport in this country, rightly or wrongly, is funded whether you can get a medal or the likelihood of getting a medal. So the closer we are to get that over the line, the more likely it is that our teams get funded, which then does have a trickle-down effect. You know, it's not necessarily millions, but there's staff and infrastructure that can come in. And then we also get to that inspiration point that I just made about inspiring young people. But then what's interesting, to bring it all the way back to T-Rex T-ball, if you think about, well, if I'm a British kid, how do I get on the national team? I see Michael Peterson and he's throwing 100 miles an hour. How do I do that? Well, the beautiful thing is T-Rex T-ball is set up to do that because we don't focus on baseball IQ, because quite frankly, 6 and 7 year olds, with the exception of a rare individual, don't have the cognitive awareness to have baseball IQ. There are some, and we can move them on, but we shouldn't structure a game around a rare individual or rare prodigy. We need to structure it around what most 6 and 7 year olds need. So how do I get that? How do I start that journey of getting to throwing 100 miles an hour? Well, when you're little, you need to learn how to throw it hard and far. You don't need to worry about, can you as a pitcher's helper or a second baseman make a play to first base when the first baseman can't catch the ball? So we then take the games and structure, well, how do we make catching an individual game? How do we make throwing it hard an individual game? How do we make hitting for power an individual game and help them scale it so that then when they get to that IQ baseball age of, say 9 or 10, they have the competent skills to be amazing baseball players. And so that, for me, that's what the vision is. Like, how can we raise the base? How can we inspire kids, but give them the skill set so when they step on the field, people go, wow, these guys are amazing baseball players, and not just, oh, okay, we've got to work on the fundamentals, which has been the thing that we've always talked about in this country for decades.
But yeah, it's amazing to kind of hear how passionate you are about British baseball. What can it do? I always think of, you just have those moments like a GB team in the Olympics is a dream, because it's an unbelievable level of coverage that will come with it compared to other aspects. But just having a moment where, if GB were to win a game in the Olympics, that win at the WBC is probably one of the greatest moments I've ever watched of baseball live. I imagine for yourself being part of it, it was one of those finest moments. But it was a moment that was kind of really known only to the people who were in baseball. They knew it was happened. That win at something like the Olympics changes the landscape entirely.
Yeah, I mean, the Olympics is our country has a wonderful fascination with the Olympic Games, and any sport, regardless of how amazing or bizarre or unfamiliar, gets that coverage. And if we are successful, and I think we have a 33% chance of medaling, looking at the way how the tournament is likely to be structured, that changes the narrative, and all of a sudden that could be the moment that Pandora's box of baseball is opened for us. And even if we aren't, we can certainly get there, qualify, put on a darn good show, and really show people that we're a force to be reckoned with. So yeah, I say yeah, all guns blazing. Let's go for it.
Yeah, it's to some the people who've been in British baseball for a long time, baseball was cruelly taken away from us in 2012. It was part of the initial bid, part of the setup back in when the games was awarded to London, but some politics that sits outside of our world at a much higher level removed baseball and removed it from being in London 2012, and we're kind of still fighting to get back to what could have been.
Oh, I tell you what, that moment still haunts me. So I remember being in a cafe in 2005 in Czech Republic. The Olympics is about to be announced, and it's between London and Paris. We're in the same cafe pizza place as the French national team. It's announced, it's London, and all of a sudden we're looking around the table because I was with the senior national team at the point, thinking, right, who's young enough? Who could play in the Olympics? Like, is it you? Is it me? Like, how could this work? What does my life now look like for the next 7 years? And then the next day they announce that baseball's out, and I can't tell you it just crushes your world. It crushes your universe. So yeah, that still is a sore one, dealing with the what could have been because of London 2012. But we have a chance to rewrite our own history. We're in charge of that destiny now. Baseball is in the Olympics. We have a chance to qualify. We have the players. We have the staff. We can do it.
That's amazing, and I think that's no better way to end it today. Will, thank you very much for joining today. I wish you all the best with T-Rex Baseball and youth baseball in the United Kingdom, and with your youth system down in Greenwich.
Absolutely. Can I say one last thing about T-Rex T-Ball, if that's all right? Which is, it's a vehicle, and it's a way to help clubs and coaches get kids involved. So if you like the idea of helping 4 to 7-year-olds be inspired to have fun playing baseball, then please get in touch through the website or email me at TRexTball to set up T-Rex T-Ball, whether it's in a club or a park, wherever you are in the UK. We'd love to help out.
Awesome. Please do reach out to Will. We'd love to see more baseball here in the United Kingdom. We'll be back to you shortly for more coverage of the AAA Game 3 soon.